MDOT presents The Extra Mile with Paul and Waverly.
Welcome in to another episode of the Extra Mile podcast presented by the Mississippi Department of Transportation. So excited today, taking the show on the road to the city of Vicksburg to talk to Mayor George Flaggs. One of the things we really wanted to talk to him about was how transportation infrastructure impacts economic growth and development in the state. Talked a lot about that, and we also have a surprise. Our Waverly McCarthy is now Waverly Prince. She got married not too long ago. Congratulations, Waverly.
2 whole weeks of marriage. It's been great. But we are in the beautiful city of Vicksburg talking to Mayor George Flaggs, and he it was very insightful. He talked a lot about connecting the dots and how infrastructure impacts cities, and how a vibrant city needs infrastructure, and infrastructure needs a vibrant city. And I think it was a really great conversation that we had, and we learned a lot. So I'm excited to let y'all hear.
Let's get started. We are in the beautiful, historic city of Vicksburg, and we've, of course, taken the show on the road for the very first time. And so thankful that Mayor George Flaggs is our first non-MDOT guest. Mayor Flaggs, can you kind of take us through your career? I know you've been involved in Mississippi politics for a long time.
Well, first of all, let me thank you for coming to Vicksburg and welcome you to the city of Vicksburg. And you're right, it's one of the most beautiful cities you ever want to see. I have a great passion about this city, so if I sound biased about Vicksburg, I am, because I've been here all my life. But let me just say this, is that I started out working for a chemical plant. Worked for them about 15 years. We had an educational program where I went back to school and got a degree in industrial technology. And then going back, I had help in 1987 with an election of a congressman, Mike Espy, to be elected. And then it came up the election of the House of Representatives, and I was drafted. Believe it or not, my only experience was knowing the community. I was a modeler. It's hard to believe that I was a fashion modeler for a charitable organization that we donated money back to the charity. But fast forward, and so I served about 25 years in the legislature, and it was one of the most humble and rewarding experience I ever had. I don't think I would have been able to transition to this mayoral position had I not. I chaired a lot of committees in the House. I was one of the longest serving members of the Legislative Budget Committee and on the Appropriation Committee. So in itself, it gave me an opportunity to see how the money flow. And as the money flowed, I was able to see how it was impacting the state through the various agencies. And it was just rewarding experience. So coming here, I just had to learn all over again. I was drafted in this. I had retired. I had thought that I had proven myself and wanted to do something different. I was drafted to run for this. I was in a race with about 6 people, and in a primary, and I won with 50% of the vote plus 1. And then the rest is history. Then I've been winning ever since, and I hope I can continue to win. I'm not through yet.
Well, you've done a lot of good things for the city of Vicksburg, so I'm sure that they'll be happy to have you.
Well, what we try to do is to, I believe in this. I believe you should leave a situation or relationship in a better position than you found it. It brings back a great reflection. When I first got elected in 2013, I was riding up the street, and on Washington Street, there were 5 cars, boarded buildings, and I just couldn't understand what had happened. A city that had a rail system going through it, I-20 and the beautiful Mississippi River for all kinds of transportation. While we wouldn't sink and we had an employment, we had what we call the ERNIC, a research laboratory, that had more PhDs per capita than anybody else. And I just couldn't understand what happened. So what I did is just roll up my sleeves and say, you know what? I want to make this better. I want to keep it simple. I want to make it look easy. And I start organizing around the resources of Vicksburg, around the expertise of Vicksburg. Didn't do it on different downtown. We just told them that we was open for business.
Sir. And Mayor Flaggs, one of the main kind of themes and points of this podcast is kind of to let our listeners know the impacts of transportation infrastructure on economic growth and development. You are a city leader. Can you kind of tell us your experience with that and your thoughts on that?
The way I look at it from my perspective, education, meaning an educational workforce / great infrastructure, is a win-win. That's where I look at it. You cannot have a vibrant city without having the infrastructure that is needed, and you should, every city, every state ought to take its resource and try to collaborate around the state and within its community and connect the dots of a system. I see, and I think the state of Mississippi is doing a great job. I think the commissioner is doing a great job. And by the way, my good friend, the executive director over there, Brad, is going to do a good job if given opportunity. But let me just say, all we have to do is connect the dots. We have enough dots in this city to compete against California, New York, or any other city that has a mass transit system or have any type of transportation system. It's just that we have never connected the dots and put them all together so that it will flow from the interstate to the county roads to the state roads and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you talked a little bit about how, connecting those dots, working, with state within the city, can you talk about the importance of those relationships between, local and a state?
Oh, it's absolutely imperative that you have good relationship. I thrive on relationship. I always talk about relationship matter. And it's just not community relationship. It's from the White House down to local government. It's important that if you want to build upon this antiquated infrastructure throughout this country, then you'll need federal government to do its part. There could be some improvement there. The state has to do its part, and then at the county level, they have to do their part, and the local government, which is municipal government, is making certain that the streets and the access to the streets, the bridges going to the street, the exits and ramps going to the street meet all the needs of the city and the state and the nation, so they all flow together. I-20, and we just got it, thanks to the we just got for the first time, and it ought to be open in another month or two, a bridge that will connect one of the most vital part of our city, the Outlet Mall, which is dying and desperate need access from I-20 eastbound. Now we got it, and that's going to be a tremendous economic impact because we'll be able to bring that Outlet Mall back because around that Outlet Mall you're going to see eateries and breakfast places there. So that's what it means to Vicksburg. And then some of our exits and our ramps can be improved, and when they're improved and connect to I-20, and then I-20, and I think there's a long-term plan of trying to 6-lane some of I-20 from Jackson to Vicksburg. And if that become a reality, then what you're going to see, because I see it every day, I see more 18-wheelers on I-20 than I've ever seen before. And what that means is that people are transporting their goods by means of 18-wheelers, tractors, and trailers. So we have to be ready for that. When you drive by Love's, you can see all the 18-wheelers parked over there. That's a great economic revenue source for not only the state, but for the county and the city. So that's connecting the dots. Our dots are to go from a political, from government positions to the actual infrastructure. And when you do that, I think we're doing that. I think we're doing a much better job at it. When I first went to the legislature, I think the fight was about north Mississippi and South Mississippi and the Central got left out. Now it's about who can best prove the needs and grow the city. And I see folks talk about Madison, why they doing so much infrastructure improvement around Madison. But look at how Madison is growing. The infrastructure followed the growth. The growth followed the infrastructure. And there's a correlation between the growth and the infrastructure. So I don't ratchet down on Madison. What I do is just try to take a model from Madison and improve Vicksburg. But yes, I don't see in 2021 or the next 30, 40, 50 years, infrastructure being second to anything other than a great educational workforce.
You mentioned it a little bit, but a good transportation network, that means jobs, right?
Absolutely. And the other part about infrastructure is that the component nobody never see is the building of the infrastructure, the number of jobs that are created by the construction workers and the construction need, the engineering, everything that goes into infrastructure. Nobody sees that. They just see a road that has been built, look good, and it's a means of transportation. But I'm telling you, besides small business, I'm willing to bet you that infrastructure needs or infrastructure improvements or infrastructure period provide more in a local, state, and national economy than anything else.
Thank you, Mayor Flaggs. We're going to take a short break, but we will be right back.
Thanksgiving is just weeks away, and historically it's one of the busiest travel holidays in America. MDOT reminds drivers to plan ahead, remain patient, buckle up, and download the MDOT Traffic app before hitting the highway. With the MDOT Traffic app, you can see road conditions as well as receive traffic alerts along your route with just the touch of a finger. Don't be a turkey. Remain alert this Thanksgiving.
Welcome back. We're here with Vicksburg Mayor George Flaggs. We've been talking mostly about roads. And Vicksburg is a major river city, so we've got ports, we've got the waterway, you talked about it earlier, the rails. Can you talk a little bit about how improvements in those areas also impact Vicksburg?
Well, access. And when you have access, then that's an improvement in itself. We've been able to work with the Department of Transportation, work with the county, work with the city, and because of that, we've been able to. We just found out that we had a crown jewel in our city, and that is some undeveloped land that's adjacent to the Mississippi River, which will create one of the fastest and biggest port in this state if we just develop it. It has a rail. It has the water, and it connects to I-20. What three means of transportation better yet? I don't believe nobody else in Mississippi would have that, and we're trying to promote it. We're trying to say to the rest of the world, if you want to transport your goods from New Orleans to Canada, or from Canada back to wherever, we're going to have a central located port that's going to be accessible to you, and it's going to be affordable. Or if you want to bring your goods to a central location in Vicksburg, because we're the gateway from California, from Atlanta, New York, I-20. We're saying you can bring your goods to Vicksburg, and then you can unload here in Vicksburg, get on a 18-wheeler or pack and go anywhere you want to. I think that that in itself is going to be the future of this, not just city, but this state.
Yeah. And it goes back to your point about connecting those dots.
Oh, it's connecting the dots. We have to look down on Mississippi from above and see what is not connected. The Highway 27 that should have been 4-lane. We got to look at it. And not only when we connect the dots, and you talk about the economic impact, a good infrastructure, but you hadn't talked about the safety of a good infrastructure. When you got safe ramps, you got safe exits, you got safe roads, and you got safe bridges. I can't forget when we had more bridges in Mississippi that was obsolete or was failing, and all I could see is school children on buses can't get across those bridges or wasn't allowed because they was closed down. And if look at it, I was a part of a group too, a means to fast mobile transportation. The SEC, I'm told that Congress is looking at a way that taking I-20, going all the way from Atlanta to Shreveport or Monroe, or Dallas, I think, and look at how to be able to create a rail infrastructure with a high-speed train. I mean, that's going to be great. Another thing that comes to mind why infrastructure and connecting dots is important, we're in the midst, I guess, in the next years to come, hurricanes, evacuation. It's important to be able to get out and get out fast. Those are safety measurements that people don't look at. But if you want to see a bottleneck, let them do a mandatory evacuation out of New Orleans to the coast, and then you go to 55 or 49. And we got to have more means to do that. We got to have more means in the Delta, going from east to west, so we can be able to connect the dots again and make certain that we make traveling accessible to not only just the river, the barges, but to rail and to the vehicles and everything. So that's the way I see it.
Mayor Flaggs, thank you so much for talking about the safety aspect of transportation infrastructure. That's certainly one of the most important things that we strive for at MDOT. You also talked about, connecting the dots, and it's very important to keep everyone connected. Can you talk about the importance of public transit and kind of in Vicksburg and just kind of overall?
Well, the public transit in Vicksburg, we have what we call a small means or en route bus that primarily now is being used to transport handicapped people or injured to different healthcare facility. But we could use one like Jackson, where you have J-Train and all those things. They are very important because look right now. Look at the cost of gasoline. The cost of gasoline is probably I don't see it going down as fast as it did last time. And because of that, we got to be able to be more creative, innovative in our providing transportation to people to and from work. In the largest cities, they bike to work or scooter to work. They do a lot of things in the D.C. area, Atlanta area, no area. But in our area, we have to create more ways to be more mobile for people to go back and forth to work, back and forth to healthcare needs and those type things. Because of the fact that, like I said, gas is going up and a lot of things around vehicles. And then it's a safety measure when you don't have as many cars on the highways or roads or the street at the same time, because you can mobilize more people. You take a bus for 42 people, it'll take 6 cars to get 42 people or more to get that many people. So that's why it's important. And I think, and credit to NDOT, I think they're doing everything they can to make certain that these improvements we're talking about are on the table. The issue is always going to be funded. How do you fund it? The ideas are brilliant, but how do you fund them? And I think the critical need for them is to be able to get more federal funded. And that's why I support the national infrastructure bill that is being talked about. Some folks think it's dead. I don't. I think they're going to come up with an infrastructure bill because Congress, Republican and Democrats, understand the need of improving infrastructure and what it's going to cost if we don't do something. And it's a way to create jobs. And I get back to the job. Not only just to say the number of jobs that you created, and those jobs paying pretty good now. And then the service, like engineering and all the structure people that goes into them. So it in itself is an economic engine, infrastructure by itself.
Well, Mayor Flaggs, very insightful conversation, and we were really excited to get out on the road and hear another perspective. Thank you so much for having us in your beautiful city, and we really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for coming, and y'all continue to do what you're doing, because when you have programs like this, you educate the public, you raise the awareness, and then at the same time, you allow them to have input into their infrastructure or whatever means of government. So keep doing what y'all doing. Tell my good friend Brad White, keep doing a good job. Willie Simmons and all those commissions, keep doing what they're doing.
Thank you.
Will do. Yes, sir.
That was a great conversation with Mayor Flaggs. I just wanted to thank the city of Vicksburg for welcoming us to their beautiful city, and especially Tiffany Pendleton, the mayor's chief of staff, for helping us set this up, and it's been a great conversation.
And before we get out of here, of course, we want to thank our wonderful producer, Katie Hornsby, and our editor, Drew Hall. Everybody, remember to drive smart out there on Mississippi highways.